Hey guys, it's been a little while, a long overdue episode of the Dota Diary. A lot of people have been asking me about it. If you're new to this type of video, really what it's about is the fact that Dota is a lot of like a mental battle, and the fact that there's a lot of things outside of the game that you have to think about if you want to be successful in the game.
Banana slam jam.
Recently, I've had some mind-blowing discoveries. For some of you, they'll be like, duh. What are you, dumb, BSJ? You've been playing this game for 10 years. You've been a streamer for 7. How could it have possibly taken you this long to figure out? And then some of you, hopefully, will also be like, maybe I can do that too. So without further ado, my big discovery is that drills are an incredible thing. Throughout my entire life growing up, I played sports. I played basketball predominantly, and I played a little bit of football, American football, and I ended up running track in college. And there's this crazy idea that if you were bad at free throws, or you had to practice running a certain route as a receiver, or even just a certain race, you had to do drills to get faster or to get better, to refine these things. And for whatever reason, I knew about 1v1s mid, for instance. I've known about options, but I never really thought critically about making my own drills. I also realized that there's a lot of mechanics, such as like trying a new CS mechanic, which is what I'll talk about a bit today. If you were to do them in a game, they're a bit scary, at least for me, because I know there's going to be a CS that I might miss if I try this new mechanic. There's just something about the fact that if you're scared of messing up, that you're just not going to do it. And even though it's just like, yeah, just get better, just improve. It feels really bad to like lose games or to lose lanes, for instance, because you're trying to learn. It's like, well, that's my reward for trying really hard to learn, is to have immediate failure. So really what happened was, throughout the course of my entire career, there's been little things that I know can be better, and I just never truly took the time to hash them out. I think this is best done by example. I will be making videos on all of these things, part of my fundamentals course, which I love to put these things in my fundamentals course because I can teach them to you guys right now, but I only learned them 10 years into my Dota career. So I just want to show them to you guys by example so you understand a bit better. First and foremost, when I was doing global aggro, which is where I'm laning bottom and I use an enemy hero to aggro creeps in my lane that's in another lane, in this case mid, I noticed that whenever I did that, I'll show you real quick, I would click the axe and then my hero would run towards the axe. And so what would happen is in my lane, I would go from here to here in order to do that. And in some cases, it was putting me immensely out of position. But then also by doing that, by running my hero forward, notice how the creeps kind of like chased me to right here, and then they de-aggroed onto my melee. So what I usually, when I'm drawing creep aggro like this, I'm pulling it to my range in order to deny my range. So like that seemed like a huge problem. And I was like, like what can I actually do to fix this? And I realized that by simply pushing stop right after I issue an attack command on the axe, it fixes everything. So my hero didn't move at all, and then I can easily drag at least 1 or 2 of the creeps to my range. And that seemed like such a small little like realization, but then when I tried to do it in like an actual game, it just didn't work, meaning like I was so used to not pressing stop prior in my entire career of playing Dota. And so I recreated this situation in a lobby for a period of maybe a total of 30 minutes to an hour over the course of a week, and suddenly I was doing that like autopilot. And then it took it even further and realized that in lane, even when I'm just aggroing normally, you do a bit of the same thing. So I noticed that if I were to do this, I did the same thing. Notice how my hero like nudged towards the axe. That's because I didn't push stop. And I have aggroed like this for years. Let's just be very clear. For years. And instead, I'm like, oh, I can just do like immediately push stop and my hero doesn't move at all towards the opponent. So this lets me like control my positioning in lane much better and prevents me from doing that little sidestep that's gotten me killed numerous times. Does it get me killed often? No. Like, even if it's 1 to 2% of the time that I aggro, I probably aggro at least 25 times a lane. So that means every 4 games or so, I'm getting caught out of position and maybe not dying, but taking more damage than I should. And these little situations in Dota is what I've realized is what it's all about fixing. Because Dota is just rinse and repeat, refining things, winning trades, getting extra CS, etc. So that's one of the first lessons I learned. And even though this video is meant to be more of a reflection on how I'm doing things or like what's going on in my Dota life, I think it's important that you guys see that like I had to think to myself, like, what can I do about this? And then I drilled it out. And that's what I'm going to be encouraging all of you to be doing. So another thing I've learned is that I immensely struggled in the mid lane, but also some in the side lanes, with heroes that had no way to secure CS. They didn't have a stun to like threaten the opponent. They didn't have high base damage. They didn't have a nuke. And I realized I struggled level 1 and 2 to secure creeps that I needed to get in lanes with these types of heroes. And what I realized was that, say an enemy is just contesting this CS at the same time I am, that in that case I got it, but my timing wasn't very good. If you watch high level mid players, there's a lot of back and forth like pump faking. You know, they're both continuously changing or canceling their attacks. And I was like, well, like, I truly never understood why they did that. I actually knew they did it, but I never understood why they did it. And a lot of this, like, Dota Diary episode is about the fact that, like, I knew this kind of stuff, and I just never was curious enough to learn more. So I realized that the reason why they do this, like, constant pump faking, is that if I'm just sitting here waiting to, like, perfectly time the CS, I have to include the entire windup of these awkward ranged heroes especially, or even just melee heroes with longer windups. I have to like time it, and it's very predictable. Like the minute that I queue up an attack, the opponent knows that I'm going to attack, so they can look to deny. I just realized that I was getting read by the opponent mid laner. So what I started doing was practicing this whole pump faking thing like this, and it looks so different, or it doesn't look that much different, but it nets such a different result. So what happens is that I realized that in order to constantly pump fake, I have to consistently cancel my attack. And my entire life, my entire Dota career, I have encouraged people and told people that they should use A click instead of right click in order to do this. But if you learn over time, if you were to do what I like, go through the process that I did, in order to pump fake, if I'm AS, you know, just constantly clicking 2 keys on my keyboard, it just isn't efficient in comparison to just holding right click and spamming S. And that's what I'm doing now, is holding right click and spamming S. It's just much easier if you try it out. And it's been like an absolute game changer for me. So like if you want to try this yourself, I'm going to be making a video on it. You need right click force attack because you can do it for denies as well. And you'll also want to add the auto repeater right mouse. This is almost like a tutorial video for Dota Diaries, because for me doing this and just drilling it out, it has taken me 2 weeks to get used to this because I have CS differently for so long. Even doing it on denies. And I'm trying to get in the habit of like timing it so it's like right when the creep gets low enough, right? And I'm learning that on heroes with like 46 damage, it's super important. And I've also been practicing like Bat Rider specifically, where I'm like sticky napalming the creep wave and just doing little aggro tricks and all that kind of stuff. And just doing that. Like that. The whole idea of this video is that there's some obvious things here to you guys where it's like, damn, BSJ, in order to get better, you had to practice. But I feel like a lot of people don't do this kind of stuff. And I also feel like a big issue for me has been that I think I've always known what to coach. I feel like I know what people are doing wrong and I know what to tell them to do. But I've never really in my coaching career broken down exactly how I learned it, what you guys can do in order to learn mechanics very quickly. Like, you know, it's not going to be easier, but it's quicker. And so what I realized about that was that the reason why I never was able to do that for you guys, or at least it felt difficult to do it if I ever did, was that I never did that. I never figured out a easy or at least an efficient way to work on things. So this feels like kind of like a jaw-dropping, eye-opening revelation for me, because now I'm thinking, well, I can help them, my viewers, my YouTube people, to get better at Dota the same way I am. And I'm hoping this is going to create a whole new type of content for me personally, for you guys. And that's going to be a goal of mine moving forward. So that's my Dota Diary episode for the last few weeks. Hope you guys enjoyed. A little bit of Dota tutorial in there too. Thanks for watching, guys. Like, comment, subscribe.